How you doing, YouTube? It's another week, and this time we're gonna call it a most powerful addiction. And there's so many things that we call addictions in our life, right? We could call it, maybe drinking or, cigarettes or, some kind of sin, right? Maybe it's, sexual or who knows, right? And we call all these things addictions, right? Because we feel like we have no control over it. In fact, most of the time, this day and age, we call them diseases, right? To say that it ain't our fault, right? It ain't our fault that we do this stuff. And I think it's kind of wrong. And I'm going to share, tonight a little bit about myself. And I'm not really going to read any Bible verses. I'm just going to show you myself, right? And one addiction I had in my life was cigarettes, right? I started smoking when I was about 15. Innocently started, whatever I guess you could call it. Basically, hey, you smoke? Sure. Let's give me one, right? And just trying to fit in or something, right? Not a good reason at all. And before you know it, I was smoking a pack to 2 packs a day. And I remember trying to quit when I was 19, 20. For like a week I'd quit or something, and I'd go and have a cigarette. And basically, usually when I quit, it was right after I just smoked, went somewhere for a weekend or wherever. I smoked so many, it was ridiculous, right? And I just couldn't breathe anymore, right? But it never took. I'd go back to smoking the minute I put one in my hand, right? And nothing had changed. And I remember when I was 21, I even quit for 8 months. And the person I was with, they quit with me, and then all of a sudden I walk out and they're smoking one day, and I say, well, that's not fair. Give me one, right? And so I'm back to it, right? And I could call this stuff addiction. But the truth is, all these were choices. We can call alcoholism addiction, and we could call it a disease, but ultimately it's choices. I mean, if you take out the fact that you're choosing this, then you don't want to believe it's sin, right? And addictions are that way. That's a part of the addiction. It wants you to believe that, there's nothing you can do to control it. There's nothing you can do to change it. It's just how it is. And I remember, closer to 30, quitting a couple times and wasn't working, right? And finally I just said, you know what? This controls me. I can't quit. There's nothing I could do. I had prayed for years and years. Hey, Lord, help me quit. And so many times I wanted that cigarette. And the minute I lit it up, I was like, why did I smoke a cigarette? This ain't even good. I didn't like coughing in the morning. I didn't like all the side effects from it. But yet I did it, right? I didn't want to. And the minute I started, I was ashamed of it. But when I wanted it, it was like the greatest thing I could have, right? And isn't that sin? I'm not talking about any particular sin. I'm talking about sin in general. It could be lying. It could be telling little white lies. It could be, just whatever, right? Being mean. All these things, you might do them, and then the minute you do them, you're like, man, I wish I hadn't done that. And you could call it an addiction, but it starts with choices, right? And a little bit about when I quit was, all of a sudden I quit, but something that was different, right? When people would ask me, hey, let's go have a cigarette, and I tell them I don't smoke anymore, well, just come out with me, or I'll just go out with you. Is what I used to do, right? I used to go stand, I got to prove that I'm not going to smoke a cigarette, right? If I can't stand here, it's not going to work. Well, let me tell you something. I started saying, no, I'm not going to go out there. I'm going to stay here because I don't smoke. And when my body said, hey, you need this cigarette, I tell myself, no, you don't need that. It took a lot of choices, a lot of little choices of telling myself no to that, to actually quit. And, I've been quit for almost 10 years now, right? And I gotta say, it's the best thing I've ever done. When an aspect of my health and stuff like that and how I feel. But, I was probably 2.5 years in, thinking I'm done smoking and everything else. I would wake up with such vivid dreams that I had smoked the night before and think, I'm just going to buy a pack of cigarettes. I can't control it. I have no control over this. And then I'd sit there and I'd think, you know what? I'd think about this idea that I smoked the night before, and I'd think about this dream, and I'd be like, none of that happened. None of it. Right? I never did none of that stuff, so I didn't smoke. But you know what? I'd wake up so many times thinking that it was out of control and already happened, and too bad, it's too late, right? And then I had to think about it, and I was like, wait, no, that's not truth. You know, these cigarettes, whatever they, you know, it was an outside influence that was telling me, hey, do this, right? And this is sin. This is where Satan gets us. It's our choice. It ain't him making us sin. But he knows where to poke us, right? You see, if we have an addiction, say it's anything, lying, or let's use sexual addiction, right? And we put ourselves in a position to commit that sin, right? Then we're already saying yes. If we try to quit, but we don't want to leave out, you know, I want to quit, but I still want to go here and there, you know. You're putting yourself in a place to be tempted. You're putting yourself right where Satan wants you to just go right back into it. And the feeling of hopelessness, of I'm going to die in this. There's nothing I can do to control it. And the want to say that I can't control it, this disease, that there's nothing I can do, is so prevalent in the back of our mind. That's another thing that Satan tells us. You can't control it. You might as well just do it, right? It's not your fault. But the truth is, it is. It goes to little choices you can make. It goes to choices you make every day. And anything that can lead you down that path needs to be a no. It might not be bad, but it needs to be a no, because you know what? If you're going to get past this and conquer that sin, you're going to have to start with the little things, right? Yes, sometimes you can go and just hit it head on and it's just done. But so many of our worst sins, so many of our worst addictions, so many of our worst things that we do, it takes little actions over and over and over that you wouldn't even think about. I mean, how would you think if you had to tell yourself just no? Just telling yourself no. You know, yourself is saying, hey, go have a cigarette. And you tell yourself no. Maybe yourself is saying, hey, just tell him this lie. Hey, just be mean. Hey, just do this sin, do that sin. It's okay. Or hey, just, usually or go here to, commit this, but as long as you don't commit it, it's fine to go there, right? No, that's not. You see, that's the greatest addiction. That's the lies, right? That you have no choice. But the truth is you do. You absolutely do. And I strongly encourage prayer in that. Pray to God to give you the strength. And you know what? When it comes down to the little things, start saying no. Because if you can't say no to the little parts that would cause you to do that sin, you're not going to say no to the big times when you actually do that sin, right? I mean, if maybe you're alcoholic, right? Or maybe you get drunk all the time and you do mean stuff to people and you say, well, it's not my fault, I was drunk. Well, it was your choice to get drunk, right? It was your choice to put yourself in that position. And yeah, you might have done something you normally wouldn't do if you weren't in there, but you put yourself there, right? We got to realize it's our choices that put us in sin. And as far as Satan and tempting us, he just nudges us along, right? He just pushes us a little bit. He just says, you don't need to go all the way there, but just go there, you'll be fine, you won't do it. Or he says, it's not your fault, it's a disease. So why even feel bad about it? Or he says, just this one time, whatever it might be. I pray for you that if you have an addiction, you have something you're trying to quit, a sin that you're trying to stop, that you pray that God will give you the strength. But first of all, after that, take and say no to the little things that put you in that position, okay? Have a great week. I'll talk to you next weekend. And probably have some Bible verses next weekend. Have a great week. I'll see you then.